Hi, everybody. Welcome to the QB School. I'm JT O'Sullivan. Today, we are talking leadership, specifically how to be a better leader when maybe you aren't the guy, you aren't the quarterback, you aren't the superstar on the team. How can you increase your capacity to influence? We are breaking it down. Let's get it going. Welcome to the QB School. The idea for this video came from Jason Hoke. Do you have any tips for being a better leader in the locker room when you aren't the QB? I'm a backup QB and starting running back, and I'd like to learn to be more of a leader and be a better presence on the team, if that makes sense. I hit him back for sure. Great question. Hard to answer in a comment, at least thoughtfully. Let me think about it. Maybe a good video idea. And here we go. Video idea time. So this is a great question, and really love this topic across a number of different levels and landscapes. Let's dive into the first part of this for me. So breaking down this question a little bit, how to be a better leader when you aren't the superstar or you aren't the quarterback. The first thing I would do, just pull that thing apart. I would challenge most people to not think of it as being a better leader. Leader to me is positional, okay, is a noun. It's a person, it's a thing you are trying, a role. So I think of it not completely differently. I just shift the lens a little bit to more of a verb, leadership. So leadership, I think, then allows you to not think of it tethered to a role, like you aren't the quarterback, you aren't the star, you aren't the person people are looking to in their role. Leadership is a process of influence. This idea being, how can you better influence your team, your position group, your side of the ball, your program, your community, whatever you're trying to influence? How can you do that as a more consistent, better process? And I think that's really the first part I would challenge the question with. And so how you can do that, a bunch of different ways. I'm going to go into strictly my favorite ones. The first way I want to talk about it is one that I don't love the example, because the movie Invictus really killed me on this one, because I still use it all the time, but I think it's a good starting point and an easy entry into this discussion. Is you have to set the example. You have to be the model, not the mirror. And what I mean by that is your example has to be elite. You need to show how you think it should be done at the highest level consistently. And for me, that always comes down to energy, effort, attitude. Your effort can never be challenged. Your effort has to set the room, set the temperature, however you want to describe it. Your energy needs to elevate the room. Your attitude not always has to be positive, but you always have to bring a level of energy and attitude and vibe when you walk into the weight room, when you walk into the practice field, when you walk into the room, that you elevate the room. That example, I think, can go a long way to initiating the influence process, to give you some credit with your peers, with your teammates, that allow you to elevate your program, your offense, and really your capacity to influence far beyond your role, whether you're the captain, whether you're the quarterback, you're the starter, XYZ, whatever. If you can set the example, if you can have max effort, bring great energy, have a positive attitude, a good attitude, not even a positive attitude, a good, consistent attitude, those types of things, setting the example like that, then allows you more credit to have a little bit more latitude when you try to get a little bit more creative in how you are going to kind of influence your process, how you're going to influence your team, your offense, your teammates, your program, all those types of things go. But if you don't go in there and set the example every single day, all the time, then you don't really get the credit. Your peers aren't going to allow you to step into that space to then elevate everyone else through multiple different levels of influence. So you have to be willing to set the example. And I always think of the movie Invictus, when Morgan Freeman is asking Matt Damon to basically say, what's your leadership style? I forget the question exactly. How do you motivate your teammates? And he says, I set the example. And he says, and Morgan Freeman basically goes like, that's great. That's like the price of admission. That's obviously you have to do that. But how do you motivate your team? How do you motivate your teammates? And that's really where I think the nuance of this question really goes into. I think that there's a bunch of different ways to do it. I personally love and lean on the idea of empathy first, judgment second. And what does that mean? Okay, let's deconstruct that a little bit. Okay, I'll try to do it quickly, keep the people in the back awake. This idea being empathy first. So resist the urge to judge. It's not the easiest thing to do. I'm recovering judger, okay, and slip into that every once in a while. But really try to put that secondary. Even if you feel yourself judging someone, acknowledge it, set it to the side, and then try to empathize with them. Now, what does that mean? That means try to envision as if you are that person. What are they going through? What is that teammate going through? Why are they late? Why are they struggling in school? Why are they excelling? What are they trying to do? Can you feel as if you are that person? That's what that empathy vibe is. And if you can start there, I think it allows you to be a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more comprehensive in your judgment, because there can be moments of judgment where we need to have a moment of Jesus, come to Jesus moment with teammates, with people within the program, with people who aren't necessarily doing and meeting the standard of what we're trying to build. But if we start from that idea of empathy first, I think it allows us to be a little bit more human, a little bit kinder, a little bit more well-respected, because we really are trying to feel as if we are that person. We're not rushing to judgment. We're not coming in making a kind of rash mistake. You're really trying to feel as if you are that person to then better be able to influence them when you need to be that quote unquote leader, or increase your capacity to influence that person, that group of people, that team, that program, that community. So if you're looking to kind of increase your sphere of influence, I would really challenge you to lean in to that idea of being empathetic first, judge second. So empathy first, judgment second is kind of my initial thought process whenever I'm trying to teach or kind of create that idea of, hey, how can we be better, quote unquote, leaders? We can increase our capacity to use our leadership to influence our peers, our team, our process by really leading into that empathy first, judgment second. And I know it can come across as a little soft, little soft words, or maybe we use it a retreat or whatever. But really, if you lean into feeling as if, how would I feel as if I was that person? And you'll never have all the details, all the kind of vibe that what it's like to encompass that person's essence. But if you can at least acknowledge, hey, it must feel like this, or maybe it feels like this, or maybe I should ask this person how it feels that this is going on, as if you are that person, to then reserve the judgment, I think it creates a whole different lens, a whole different capacity for you to influence across a number of different levels, process, whether it's football, team, business, different sectors in life. The next part of the process that I think is very important is this idea that if you're going to try to increase your capacity to influence, you need to really be authentically you. Now, that comes in with kind of a number of kind of preconceived ideas. First of all, the idea that you really do know who you are and have done the work internally to have maybe a kind of pencil or draft analysis of who you are, what your kind of core essence is, what you gravitate towards. So let's assume that you've done a little bit of that work, which is a lot and heavy work and really never stops. But challenging yourself to be you, to not try to fake the funk, to be a yeller when you're not a yeller, to not fake intensity when you're kind of super chill, easy going, those types of things. Just be you. I think teammates, peers, people across all sectors can feel when someone's trying to kind of be someone they're not. So if you're comfortable in your own skin and you've done the work to know what you like, what you gravitate towards, what you're trying to model, I think people feel that. Just be authentically you. If you're intense, be intense, own it. Know both sides of it, know the blind spots of it, but be you. Don't try to turn down the volume. If you're not a yeller, you probably don't need to get in the pregame huddle and do the pregame cheer. Not everybody is Drew Brees in that regard. So, or Ray Lewis. Just be you, and I think that your teammates will respect that, and your influence across your team, position group, community will grow with that kind of authentic vibe. And finally, really the last part or two parts that I want to talk about here is this idea for me when I'm talking about trying to increase my capacity for influence, I'm trying to make the biggest, deepest, widest impact possible. So I'm trying to elevate, whether it be a position group, teammates, peers, a team, community. Quarterback's a perfect example. When you walk in the huddle, does that huddle come up? Are they excited to see you? Or can you see a visible kind of like, oh man, here we go. This will be interesting. that type of thing. You don't have to be the starter to go into the huddle and elevate your teammates. You don't have to be the starting quarterback to go into the weight room and elevate your teammates. And so that idea, whether it's effort, energy, attitude, your outlook, what you bring to the table, if you go in there with the intention of, I'm going to elevate my teammates today. I'm going to elevate everything that we're trying to do collectively. Now, obviously, I have to do it individually as well. But can I hold that individual mindset and also elevate our team, our collective unit, those types of things? Those are the special elements for me where you will take your capacity to lead, quote unquote, be a leader, and increase your capacity to exercise leadership across the football field, across the football team, across the community, across the program. Those types of things I think can be very intentional. So elevate your teammates with that mindset, be intentional in that space. And then the last one is fail quickly. Fail quickly is something that I think is applicable across all sectors. But when you're talking about increasing your capacity to lead or exercise leadership, especially in a football environment when you're not the superstar, fail quickly can mean a bunch of different things. It can mean, hey, can I bounce back quickly from a turnover, from an incomplete pass, from whatever? That's a small kind of crummy example. But failing quickly to me means practice your leadership. Go up to a teammate one-on-one and try to elevate them. You can experiment. Hey, nice job. Big lift. You really inspired me today to get better. Those types of things, you can play around with that. That's a safe environment, one-on-one with a player, with a peer, with a coach. Maybe you want to do the break one day. Maybe you want to do the position breakdown one day. Maybe you want to, stay after practice and coach up a younger player in the program. Fail quickly with that. It doesn't always have to be work. It doesn't always have to be perfect. It's fine to not have your influence be locked in every single time you try to influence a person, group, team. So with that mindset that, hey, I'm going to experiment with this. I'm going to try be positive. I'm going to try to give critical feedback. I'm going to try to elevate this group. This practice isn't going well. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to have a moment with our side of the ball, our team, our position group, and try to squash this thing. Experiment with that. Nobody cares. In the grand scheme of things, no one will remember that in 2 years. But your capacity to influence will be more and more refined. You'll get better and better at it, and I think you just have to be intentional with it. So you have to be the model. You have to set the example. I really encourage you to live in the mindset of empathy first, judgment second. That's really the critical one for me. When you get from that, you then are able to be intentional with the other elements. You're able to elevate your team, your peers, your group, your community, your program, all those types of things, and then fail quickly. Do small little leadership experiments where you're able to take a teammate off to the side after practice, in the middle of practice, in the weight room, on an off day. Those types of things, practice your leadership. So great question. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know other videos you want to see like this if you dig it. Again, I appreciate the support. I will see you next time. Have a good one.